Welcome to the Transform Your Wedding podcast, a how-to guide for taking your wedding to a whole new level. Here's your host, Marie Kubin from Rent My Wedding.
Hey everyone, today we're talking all about summer wedding trends. I'll be chatting with Anthony, the owner of Anthony Tassetta Event Design. He is a renowned event planner and designer who got his start in major theater productions on Broadway. He's translated all of that creativity into designing personal and immersive experiences for special events. So I can't wait to chat with Anthony and hear all of his ideas for summer weddings. Hey, Anthony, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to talk with you about all the cool trends that are coming up for summer. This is my favorite time of year for weddings, so I can't wait to hear what's new this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a very interesting, fun time because, people are excited to be being out and having weddings. And here we are, we're back to celebrating. So it's great.
Definitely. So we've got a lot to talk about. So let's just jump right in and talk about some of the biggest trends for this summer. So what would you say is the first big trend?
Well, I would say the first big trend is finding the space, right? So I think that there's going to be a lot of outdoor entertaining happening. So I think like finding unique locations that you could either have outside or popping up a tent if it's some place that requires you to be more protective. So I do think that like tents are going to be very popular this year. And what's exciting to me about tents is like a lot of people just think of a tent and they just have one thing in mind, but there's so many different style of tents that really will define what kind of wedding you're having. So like just as an example, like if you were to have a wedding sort of in a field and you want it to feel like very natural and nature, which I think will also be a popular feeling. Maybe that's something like a Sperry tent, and a Sperry tent has like a canvas roof. It kind of gives you a feeling of like a sailboat type of a thing. So it feels very like romantic and garden and that type of a thing. But if that's not your vibe, maybe you want something more like a clear span, clear top tent, right? And something like that will make it feel like a lot more modern and chic and clean lines. And so, just because you're not looking maybe at a specific venue and a style of venue, you can still cater to your style based on the type of tent that you got. So, don't just think that there's, one tent and this is it. There's so many different styles and variations that you can do. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, that is so true.
This up and different stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. And I love too, there's not only different styles of tents, but you can also decorate a tent and it can look so different from one wedding to the other if you use different types of lighting, or you can drape the ceiling, and there's just so much you can do. So I love the versatility of tents for summer.
Yeah. And I think that lighting is one of my second tips. I think that is actually a really big factor here. And lighting doesn't only have to be technical. Obviously, it can be lots of candles or something like that. So keep is focusing on if you are doing something outdoors, you really want to pay attention to the lighting details way ahead of time. Pathways to and from the tent, pathways to restrooms, things like that. So lighting, we know atmospherically is very important. We don't want to forget that. But you do want to pay attention so that the guests feel like they were thought of, these things were thought out. Like, how am I going to, navigate, you might arrive, before sunset, and then you're leaving obviously well into the night. So you don't want to go through like a dark path on the way home. So, I think more importantly, if you're not working with a planner and you're working with, a lighting technician directly, you want to bring that up. Make sure you talk to them about pathways and just, functional lighting, not just the decorative atmospheric stuff that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great tip, to think about the functional lighting as well as the decorative ambiance style of lighting.
Yes.
Now, I love lighting, so I'm glad that this is one of your summer trends. What are your favorite types of decorative lighting for summer?
Well, I mean, it's timeless and classic, but I just love the bistro light feel. I love the stringing lights, and it's such a it gives such a cool like vibe to the party, because it starts off one way, and then as the sun sets, they become more alive and more like part of the event. But what is interesting and fun to do with that type of lighting is, this is something you would talk to your lighting technician about, but they can string the lights in a certain way and then sort of program them into their own board, their own lighting board, and on different switches. So what could happen like later in the night when it's time to be dancing again and all that kind of stuff, they actually have a lot more control of just on and off. They can make them like blink and do different things. So I think that's important to note as well. Like, yes, they're here, but definitely like either talk to your planner or talk to your lighting person if you're not using a planner, because it doesn't just have to be what you think, like there's ways to play with them and make them chase. And that could be a surprise later in the night that people won't expect at all. They'll just think, oh, here we have the lights, and now that type of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. It can really set the mood for, the different parts of the reception. So you've got that magical vibe going down during dinner, and then have a cool light show, the chasing effect during the dance party portion of the evening. So yeah, I totally love how you can do so much with string lights and all different types of lighting.
Yes. And then, yeah, I mean, I just love them. And then, up lights and that type of stuff to create, the room and give height to the tent and all that. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, how about the third trend for summer?
The third trend. So I think that catering is going to be a big part of the event. I mean, obviously it always is, but I think that because of, coming out of these times that we went through, where we had a lot of smaller micro weddings where like people were doing weddings, but they were obviously no dancing. They were focused on food and it being like creative. I think that that's going to influence what we do now. People like that. They do like, it's not just your typical banquet hall type of dinner. So there are a lot of caterers that got really creative, during these micro wedding times about how to serve things, and they were sort of doing it how to like serve safely, I would say. But I think some of these trends may stay because they're actually like really cute. One example I love is like, if you are out having a garden wedding outside, I've seen, like using mason jars as they're like little mini cocktail meals, I would say, and nothing too big, but instead of having like stations all around and you go up and you pick and maybe make a plate of something and have find somewhere to sit. In this case, you just pick up your little mason jar, you eat, the contents of it, and then you just put it down and move on. So, it's like, why didn't we think of that before? Like why have to walk around with a drink and a plate and, try and fumbling around during cocktail hour? But now it's so simple. You have your little mason jar, you eat, just what's in there, put it down, move on. So I love that idea for cocktails. And summertime too, I think the idea of like the charcuterie board is going to be really popular. It's been popular, like having these big, lush, delicious looking platters, right? It's such a trend that you see so many places. But I think what could be really cute, and I'm starting to see this a little bit, is paring them down and making those the first course, like little mini individually sized charcuterie boards. And it's really cute. Yeah, it's so cute because it's like, it's definitely on trend. Everyone loves that type of food. It's filling, and it's unique. Everyone gets like their own little board. And I think that's going to be something that we see a lot as well, is like this whole charcuterie idea, because it just seems to be like trending at this lush, delicious home Tuscan style feeling. It's great.
Definitely.
So I think that, catering in these fun, creative ways that they've had to learn to adapt will be influenced on summer menus and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are such great ideas. And I love that personalized charcuterie board. That is such an amazing idea.
Yeah, it's delicious, right? Like,
And you
I
get
really
your
like
own,
that.
which is even better.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So how about the fourth trend for summer?
So the fourth trend for summer, I would say, is the freedom that we now have to sort of like mix and match furniture. So, for example, if you're having a wedding at a banquet hall or a venue, typically they might have in-house linens, or they might have in-house chairs. And sometimes the expense of, not using them is not really for everyone. Sometimes you just, they're good enough. We like them.
Mm-hmm.
And you use them. But in this case, you really are starting from zero in terms of rentals. So you don't have to fall in love with one chair. You might like 2 or 3 different ones, and you play with the floor plan. And if you have a planner or a designer like me, I do that. But if you don't, play around with that kind of stuff. Use some chairs, all over, and make it a little bit more like whimsical and interesting, and all of that. And I think that like that's the same with the linens. You obviously want everything to coordinate, but it doesn't have to just be copy paste like over and over and over again. I think in the past you may have seen like different height centerpieces, some tall, some low. Like, you could try and change things up. It's that concept of like doing things. It's just taking that concept a step further. Like, not only do the arrangements can be different, but also the tables and the chairs and the linens, and it makes it feel just more like you're entertaining at home in a way, instead of like entertaining at a very specific place and you're confined to the venue's look. So
Yeah.
I think mixing and matching is really good.
I love that. Yeah, and it makes it so unique and creative too. So you can really have some fun, and it's not going to look like every other wedding at that same venue. So I love that you can have that creative license to mix and match your chairs and your linens and everything else.
Yeah, and I would say like, if you are falling in love with 2 different linens, they're probably similar in a way. So like you really don't have to make the choice, like, typically that's what happens. Like they're oftentimes so similar and it's hard to decide. Now you don't have to. So
that's true. It also makes
exactly.
it so much less stressful when you're trying to come down and pick a decision. And awesome.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, tell us about your 5th and final trend for summer.
So 5th and final trend for summer is it's encompasses a few things. One is like create your timeline so that people are not sitting down. We've been sitting for a long time. Now we can be up and we can be dancing and we can be having fun and socializing and mingling and drinking at a bar and, going up to stations. So my 5th advice is plan your party around dancing and fun and entertainment. Like keep the speeches short and sweet and keep them sort of together so that's you're not up and down. And I think that ways that you can do this is to get people up and dance is like, instead of like having just like a seated plated dessert, have desserts passed around. Like just have everything passed. Go back to like almost like a cocktail hour, but with all your dessert stuff. Get people up out of their chairs and onto the dance floor. Same thing with like a good way to do that as well is like put some lounge furniture around your dance floor as well. So this way people, maybe they don't want to dance, but they kind of want to still be a part of this excitement and action. This gives them a place to hang out and have a drink and talk while some people are dancing. Some people are just socializing. Like, so my 5th tip is just whatever you do, plan it so people are up having fun. That, is something that's been missing. I think everyone wants to have that. And the key way that I think to do that is to really strategically plan how your night runs. Keep things in some cases, I know might not be a popular like idea, but you could do a very heavily passed cocktails, fill up people, then maybe you could do just one big sort of filling course. Just do one course, right? And maybe you have something plated, but then you put family style stuff on the tables as well, so that people can like they get full. They have their full. And then you're done sitting. You have your speeches, you have whatever, formalities you need to have. Then you're up and you're dancing, and then you go to dessert. And then who's to say that you can't pass more, late night food later, So you can play with the timing of your wedding. It doesn't have to follow that strict timeline.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't
That's
agree
what I
more.
would say.
I think that this summer, weddings are going to be all about the celebration more so than any year ever before. So I absolutely love
Exactly.
that. Planning to keep your guests engaged and on their feet and interactive is going to be just so amazing because we all need that. So I
Yes.
think that's the greatest advice.
Yeah. Just don't be scared. We form out like those typical timelines and guidelines. They're all in the past. Like now we don't need to replicate that. We've moved on. We've all had, we all want to just, like I said, be together, like you're saying, celebrate, see each other, have fun. And the best way to do that is, together on a dance floor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
Anthony, what other tips do you have? Just, if you could give one biggest tip as your general advice for couples planning a wedding, what would you tell them?
I would say that, we're discussing, 5 trends, right?
Mhm.
But I would say my biggest advice is almost ignore the trends. Follow what you want to do. Follow what makes you happy. Follow, what's going to make, when you look back in 10 years, you want to look back and be like, this wedding really highlights and showcases who we are as a couple, like when I'm saying, like the trends we're sort of talking about are the ones that we mentioned today, I think are pretty timeless. But, in terms of like color palettes or, styles of flowers and things like that, you'll read a lot about what is out there and what's trending right now. But I think that, read them, take that in, you can incorporate it, but don't feel like you have to follow all the trends because you really want it to be about you and your partner and the wedding that you want to remember, and I think adding your personality in to the trends is the way to go, not just following trends. And
Absolutely.
that's what will make your wedding unique,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, I think
that's
the
my
trends are, great if you're just looking for some ideas, you don't know where to start, it's a good thing to look at. But yeah, at the end of the day, it should be all about you guys. And if you have really strong feelings about colors or a certain style or a type of decor, absolutely that should be what you go with and never let the trends, dictate your actual wedding.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the trends and I love that they come and go and they change and like that's all great. But for me, I like as a planner and as a designer, my job is to like bring out the couple and what the experience and the event, what they want, and I know to ask certain questions and say, oh, is this type of thing? But if you are working on your own, just keep that in mind. Like it's your day and make it what you want.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, Anthony, tell us more about you and your company.
Okay, great. So my company is my name, Anthony Tusetta Event Design. We're based in New York, but travel everywhere. And it's my background is a theater background. So I moved to New York to work in theater production first, and it was great. I was working on Broadway, like on the production end of different shows. And it was a lot of fun. It was like creating these environments and these, all these different shows. But after a while, I would say there was something that was sort of missing to me, in the sense that, once we opened the show, then it just was copy paste every day. And that was like, I wasn't really like loving that aspect of the creative process. So now I found a way to take that experience and move it into event production. And I really, really love it because no 2 events are ever the same. But, just like we're talking about, different style tents, different style catering, they're always different. So what's great for me and why I love and what my, basically the company that, that I sort of developed really focuses on is like making each event unique, in a sense that this is your day. This is, the world that you want to be in and you want your guests to be in, and really creating an environment that, is unforgettable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, very easily. I'm on, my Instagram is my name, Anthony Tusetta, with 2 C's, 2 T's. Email, phone, my phone, my cell is on. So if you go to my website, which is anthonytosetta.com, all the contact information is there.
Perfect. Awesome. And we'll have all of your contact info on our webpage as well, so you guys can head over there and get in touch with Anthony directly. So Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed chatting with you about all of these great summer wedding trends.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to them.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed all of these tips for summer weddings. And don't forget, you can catch all of the podcast episodes over at transformyourwedding.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Rent My Wedding, your one-stop shop for event rentals. Order online and rentals are delivered right to your door. Shipping is free both ways nationwide. Rent lighting, backdrops, photo booths, and more. With the most 5-star reviews in the industry, Rent My Wedding makes rentals easy and affordable. Book your rentals today at www.rentmywedding.com.